According to the Alzheimer Society of Manitoba, over half of Manitobans are impacted by dementia because they have a family member or friend with the disease. One of them is Nancy Scott, a caregiver for her husband who has early onset Alzheimer's. And she's here now to share her story in hopes of helping raise awareness about the disease. Nancy, thanks so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
What went through your mind when your husband first got his diagnosis?
I would have to say, because I'm a registered nurse and the experience that I have, I was quite certain that it was some type of dementia long before he got his diagnosis. We went to the doctor, he sent us for some tests. We had to go through what a lot of people do. So by November, my husband had, just by doing some simple memory tests, he had lost his license. And that November, that's when I started attending the caregiver support groups that the Alzheimer Society has, and they've been very beneficial.
Have you had to kind of shift the way you communicate with him?
Yes. As soon as I suspected my husband's condition, I started throwing myself into learning as much as I could about dementia, communicating with dementia, caring for a loved one with dementia. Things get much better as soon as you can really understand that that person can't change the way that they're responding. You know, if they yell, if they're using curse words, those are things that are beyond their control because of the damage to their brain. But we can change how we respond to them. I learned early that, you don't want to correct somebody all the time. I've taught healthcare aides for 22 years, and what I teach my students about dementia is the first two words you have to learn is "I'm sorry." Because there are going to be times where that person is confused and incredibly frustrated. And even if they're completely wrong in what they're saying, you need to respond with "I'm sorry," because it takes the pressure off them.
How do you cope as his caregiver?
As soon as we started this journey, I knew that my number one goal is to take care of me, because I am the only person here for him. And if I don't take care of me, I can't be there to help him. And I told him that the first 6 months or so after he got a diagnosis, or when we knew there was something wrong, he was very embarrassed, didn't want to tell anyone. And I had to just put my foot down and say, "I'm sorry, I can't promise that." And he would get really upset with me, and I would just tell him, "I want to be here for you, but I need support for me to be able to do that."
Why is it so important to try to erase the stigma around dementia?
I think many years ago, we probably had situations where if you told people you had dementia or Alzheimer's, that friends might stop coming by, people get feeling awkward, they don't know what to say if you're not answering appropriately. But I think that things have changed a lot. I have been absolutely shocked through this entire journey that anytime I have just said to somebody, "Oh, my husband has dementia," everybody has been completely understanding and knowing what that means, and that there might be a few things that are beyond his control.
Is that one of the reasons why you thought it was so important to share your personal story?
I really feel it's important to use my story, to use my history to help people understand. The difference in how I can teach students about dementia now, prior to me personally caring for someone with dementia, is night and day, because I can come in and say, "This is what happened. This is how I dealt with it. I realized later maybe I could have done this," and we can talk about it.
What advice would you give to anybody who's kind of at the starting line of their journey with dementia?
Contact the Alzheimer Society. That is my biggest piece of advice. They were so very helpful early on trying to get a diagnosis, and just supportive because they know. The advice that I would give, not everybody can do the same thing. If you're doing the best that you can, then you're being a good caregiver. You really have to have some good supports, tell people, and you really have to give yourself a lot of credit. You are going to make mistakes. I do the best that I can, but there are moments I raise my voice or I get frustrated, and I try to learn from those. And, you just got to give yourself a little bit of credit.